Welcome. It's time for this week's midweek medicine. I want to start off with the question from our Sunday's message. What do you do when God says go? What do you do when God says go? Let's base this off the principle of Jesus Christ being sent. He was sent to die for the sins of the world. When we think of coming to the Easter message or the Resurrection Sunday message of the forgiveness of sin, that he was buried and he rose again. And it's because of his resurrection, we celebrate not only the death and the burial, but the main point of it is that he rose. That is the miracle working power of the Spirit of God, the operating power of God working through him in order to accomplish the bigger picture or the greater goal or the main purpose of him being sent to redeem us back into a right relationship with God. So when we look at this title that we have today, what do you do when God says go? It's not necessarily about what he's saying, but it's about obedience. What do you do when God says go? The natural thing you would think is go, right? But do we always go? Do we always obey? Do we always listen? Let's look at Hebrews, the 5th chapter and verse 8, and look at Jesus's response or Jesus's mission, so to say, in going to the cross. It says, though he were a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. When he said, I'm going to go, there were some things that he was going to have to face in going. And then going to the cross for our sins. Not for something that he done himself, but took upon our sin, who knew no sin, so that we may become righteousness, the righteousness of God, through his obedience. So through his obedience, we have now a opening or access to come to the Father by faith because of what Jesus did. And so I want to talk about obedience today from that standpoint and use Genesis, the 12th chapter, to frame, I guess, what we are responding to today in the act of faith. And from Sunday, we talked about some keys of obedience. And I want to get back into those keys, the last two keys that we dealt with, because we kind of went through it real quick. But what I want to focus in on today mainly is that last passage. So let's do this just to get up to speed from Sunday's message and go through Genesis, the 12th chapter, verse 1 through 4. Verse 1 says, now the Lord said to Abram, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land I will show you. Let's look at the directive there first to get into the first key that he's talking about here is hearing the directive. The first key of obedience that we talked about on Sunday is hearing the directive. What is the directive that he gave to Abraham? Let me get back to it. The Lord said to Abram, what is the directive? What is it that he's hearing? Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land I will show you. Not having shown him yet, to a land I'm going to show you. He's given him the directive. So as we saw, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word concerning his Christ or concerning God. What is the faith that we're speaking of here is the Lord saying. So if we're talking about when God says go, what do? You go, right? So me going, I first must hear the directive. I must hear who's doing the speaking Can I trust who's doing the speaking? And from that, what is now my next move in what I've heard? If there is no movement from what I heard, then I haven't fully taken the directive. The second key that we talked about is, let me get to it. The second key we talked about is now the reward, recompense, and recovery. I put all of those together for one thing. If there's a reward, you have to be looking for the reward. If there's recompense, recompense just simply means payback. Payback for recovery. We talked about David. David's family was taken. Those leaders that was with him, family and children, were taken. And David inquired to the Lord, should I go up and fight for my family back? And God says, go, and without fail, you will recover all. So in hearing, not only am I hearing the directive, I'm also hearing the reward. Hebrews 11:6. What does it say? Look at Hebrews 11:6. But without faith, it's impossible to please God. So if faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word that God says, if God says it, then I can trust that it will come to pass. So my faith is being fully persuaded that what God said, he is able to perform. So if he's telling Abram to get out of his country, away from his family and from his father's house to a land I will show you, I can move on that word because he's trustworthy, because I found him faithful in the past. I find him faithful in the present. So therefore I can trust him for my future. And because so, I'm willing to take the step to leave what's familiar, to leave my comfort zone. I want us to get this in understanding obedience. I'm not just talking about obedience just for ourselves. I'm talking about God preparing us or sending us forth for a bigger purpose than ourselves. If God is calling you to do something, if he's calling you to be something, if he's calling you to go to something better, that better is not just for you, but it's for a bigger purpose. Jesus didn't just die for himself to be risen again. He died so that we can come back into a right relationship with God. We can be reconciled. We can be redeemed. So when God is doing one thing for you, he's doing one thing for many that you will impact, even if it's just your testimony. If God brought you through something that you know you couldn't get out of yourself, and you know it was him that brought you through it, and you know it was him that made a way when there was no way, that testimony is a help to somebody else who's now going through, that you can say, look, if God got me through it, he can get you through it. If God brought me up, he can bring you up. If God made a way, he can make a way for you. And that testimony of what you went through and God brought you through is not just a testament to who God is. It's a testament to you trusting that he's able to bring you through. When God is doing one thing, he's not just doing one thing for you. He's doing several things at one time because of his wisdom and his omniscience and being omnipresent. And he's an awesome and faithful God in all that he does. For he who comes to God, you see the action. We first have to come to get the instructions. We first have to be moving towards him. He says to draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. How are we going to have a relationship with the Father if we don't spend time drawing near to him, getting into his presence? And watch this, the next one. And he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Come on, say God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Don't be afraid to acknowledge the reward. He wants to reward us. He wants to reward you. He wants you to have better. He wouldn't have died for a new covenant if the old covenant wasn't sufficient for where he was going. Nothing was wrong with the old covenant. It was given to draw us near to the reality of Christ coming to redeem us by faith. This is a faith walk. And obedience is about trusting him in the process. The second portion I want us to understand from this is that he recovers all. Let's get into now the third and fourth keys. We skimmed through them Sunday, but I want to zero in on them in this week's midweek medicine. And the third one was this. I want you to get this in your heart. God won't show you until you go. God won't show the outcome until you make the commitment to go. See, we were trying to get the outcome before the movement, but that's not how God works. He wants to see if you're committed. He wants to see the obedience in going. And as you go, he begins to show you, I don't understand why God calling me to this. I don't understand why God is calling me to do this, to go here. We don't have to fully understand, but we have to trust him. If I trust him, I know if he's giving it to me, he's giving it to me for better. If he's stirring it up on the inside of me, he must be stirring it for better. But I still have to go. Remember Hebrews 11, the 5th chapter, verse 8. He learned obedience. That means it was a process. That means it was time that he may have been exhausted. It means it may be time that he wanted to turn around, that it wasn't looking like this was going to happen or it was going to make it through. But yet he learned obedience by the things that he went through, that he suffered. And so look at Genesis, the 12th chapter, verse 4. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken. What is the key? Abram departed, meaning he left his father's house. He left his country. He left what was familiar to him to become a stranger in a strange land that God promised that he would have. Now, I know what you're saying to yourself. Come on. It's kind of hard to follow this when I don't really know what's going on. Did Abraham really leave without God showing him where he was going first? I mean, he was in the promised land. Yes, we're reading that he was in the promised land, but what you're reading is what Abraham was experiencing at the time. Just as we are in the new covenant, we can read the Bible to Jesus, but we're living from the cross. We're living until his return. So now we're writing the chapters of the new covenant until Christ returns. So Abram is trusting God. He's showing us the foundation of faith that we must walk in. And so he's walking out the directive that was given to him from God. So I want you to see this in Hebrews 11 and 8. Look what it says. By faith, Abram obeyed when he was called to go out to the place which he would receive as an inheritance. Leave your father's country, leave your father's house, and go to a place that I will show you. And Abraham departed as God spoke to him. Why did Abraham depart? What was he leaving on? Remember, the second key: reward, recompense, recovery. Look at the promise that God gives him in Hebrews, Genesis, the 12th chapter, verse 2. I will make you a great nation. Come on. You, Abram. Remember, his name was changed to Abraham because he would become a father of many nations. He said, I will bless you and make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. Oh, I'm sorry, verse 3. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. And in you, Abraham, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Are you in the family of the earth? Are you a seed of Abraham? If you have accepted Christ as your Savior, you are now Abraham's seed and a joint heir. So watch this. You are now connected to this promise that God made to Abraham and to his seed, who Christ is the seed. And how God works everything is it becomes one and we all benefit from it. And so through that benefit from it, Abraham departed. Now let's go back to verse 8. He was called to go out to a place which he would receive. He left because God said, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to make your name great. I'm going to make your kings will come out of you. I'm talking about the inheritance by faith. And he went out. Look what it says. He went out not knowing where he was going. He left trusting God. He departed trusting God, and he had to walk it out as he was going. Yes, he faced a situation that God had to step in to overcome. He had to battle kings, and he had to battle those. He even got Lot when Lot was in Sodom and Gomorrah, and he had to go rescue him and recover him. God gave him favor to recover him, even though God didn't tell him to take Lot with him. Because Lot was connected to Abraham, he still protected him. He had to be obedient and not turn, but look, he recovered all. So the last thing that we want to discuss is key number 4 that we talked about Sunday: acting on it and acting in it. Abraham acted on the word that was given to him in verse 4, 12 and 4. So Abraham departed. That was acting on it. Okay, I heard what God said. Faith comes by hearing. Now I've developed the faith to hear. My next part now, what shows that I've heard is acting. Now I act on that word by moving away from my father's house and from my country. So if God is asking you to, have you acted on what he's given you to do, or what he's said to you in your heart that you can be, is something for you to pursue that's greater than yourself, that you've been afraid of? Remember, he has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Sometimes it seems too big in order to step out on. And when we look at it from that understanding, we're looking at it from our own personal perspective of, okay, how am I going to do this? And a lot of times it's bigger than you. But when you trust that God can do it through you, he's going to bring the resources necessary. He's going to bring the people necessary. And he's going to put the things in place necessary for you to get the victory in that. But you first have to depart and move in regards to it. And not only moving on it, but now you have to move in it. Acting in it is moving through the various aspects. If God gives you something to do greater than yourself, he wants you to build something. We've been talking about rise and build, and what he's calling you to rise up and build. He may be calling you to bring people together. He may be calling you to build something that others would benefit from. He may be calling you to solve a problem that needs solving, and he has given you the answer or to be the answer to solve it. He put in Nehemiah's heart to go back into his homeland and rebuild the wall. And through that, God gave him the resources. But he had to go to the king to get the favor that God gave him with the king. He had to go back to the land. He had to get resources to be able to build the wall. This is acting in it. If he wouldn't have left the king and gotten permission to go, then he wasn't acting in faith. And I believe a lot of us are in faith or believe, but we're not walking it out. So faith alone becomes dead, as James says. Faith without works, faith without acting in it is dead. Don't allow what God is putting in your heart to be incomplete. We have to act on it, and through that action, watch God do wondrous works. That's all I have for you this week. I appreciate you for tuning in and joining us for this week's midweek medicine. And come on, I want to give you the opportunity. If God lays it on your heart to help us move this ministry forward, keeping us going live, the different softwares that's needed to keep this going on a week-to-week basis, come alongside and be a blessing to the ministry. You can text GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 985-239-5700. As you see on the phone there, it's a secure link. Click on that link. It's going to take you to the Give page. Select General Donation, and any amount that God puts on your heart, I don't care if it's 50 cents, $1, $2, $2,000, whatever God lays. We get so caught up in the amount and what it's going to and what it's doing from it. What we're talking about here is obedience. Be obedient. If God says to give, then give to the mission that God has us on. If he doesn't say give, then don't give anything. It has to be out of a cheerful heart. I love giving to ministries and to those that are doing the work of God. I don't ask the question of where it's going or what it's doing. I'm giving to the Lord through obedience. And he loves a cheerful giver. God bless you, and you have an awesome rest of your week.